1973.
Right there.
Barbara Snowden came to Currituck as Miss Blythe, Barbara Blythe. She was the cheerleading coach. Yes, she was the cheerleading coach. And y'all, she taught us how to do the splits. I can't do one now, and I doubt Barbara can, but she sure did teach us how to do the splits back in the day. Thank you, Barbara. Love you dearly.
Okay. Anybody else, please? The entire Baptist here.
Catch us over for a second. Okay. Plenty of pork gravy.
Can you all hear me? All of you probably had her as a teacher. But we have the privilege that she's still our teacher. She teaches Sunday school in the adult class. But I was Wilson's duck hunting partner for many years. And I can tell you, all those years we duck hunted, I got one duck, and I never saw him get anything. But we really enjoyed Barbara at the church. She's our mentor. And I appreciate you all doing this for her.
I want to say something. I don't like to speak in front of groups, so this is a big thing. She was also my teacher in high school. But the story, I have two stories, but the story that I like the absolute best is I used to have a restaurant 100 years ago, which I bought from them. They were generous enough and looked out for me like no one else could. But every Christmas, they would come in and Mr. Wilson would say, "Are we getting a tree this year?" And everybody at the table would get nervous because the story he would tell, Miss Snowden they have a really tall ceiling in their house, she bought a tree that was too big for the house. And they got in there and they plugged the tree in and they go to put it up and it's like this. So she's, wanting to do this, wanting to do that. So they turn around, and I might have the story wrong, this is how it was told. They turn around, and Mr. Wilson had lit up the chainsaw. He wasn't going to cut the tree. He was going to cut a hole in the floor. So every year, he loved to torment her about getting a Christmas tree. The second story I have is I was in high school and I thought I was really cool at the time. And Miss Barbara comes up to me and says, "I have a job that I'd like you to do." My mom also was friends with Miss Barbara, and she says, "I want you to do this for Miss Snowden." I said, "Okay, well, sight unseen, I have no idea what it is, okay?" So a couple days later, Miss Snowden comes in with this floppy hat and a dress with flowers and stuff on it. She says, "You're going to be Betsy Dowdy." And you're riding a horse in front of everybody. So I start out at the end of the thing, and of course I'm galloping along. And it all went fine, but I really thought I was a cool girl, you know what I mean, until then. I had the hat on with pictures everywhere. Of course, I put the paper, and the hat looked like the stuff they wear to bed. But anyway, I have thoroughly enjoyed you.
Why do you look scared?
from. So when we were all in school, we had to research our family trees.
Oh.
Something I really didn't want to do. Now it's a passion, and something I plan on doing the rest of my life now that I'm coming back home. But I didn't realize until a few years ago that after she made hundreds of people do this, she had never researched her own. So after 3 years of researching her family, I presented her with a very large tree. She had never, ever researched her own. Isn't that right, buddy? She's the greatest teacher I ever had. And I've had, in running a restaurant, I've had so many kids come through that have worked for me over the years. And I ask them history questions all the time, and they haven't learned anything. But the best part of what we learned was hands-on. It didn't come from a book. We got to go out and dig up Indian ossuaries. We got to look at bones and pottery. We got to go to Raleigh and look up documents for family trees. We got to, go to Bath. We got to do all the cool stuff. And now, many years later, her and I still get to do all the cool stuff. We still get to go to genealogy conferences and find all those hidden documents that have been there all these years that we couldn't find. But I love you.
Let's see.
Morris, would you like to see, sir?
Well, if you don't know, I'm the outsider. I'm Brett. I'm Beth's husband. I will just tell you really quickly, my first meeting of the Snowden family. I came to Curry Tech. I'm a city boy, as my wife would say. Never changed a tire or anything like that. She had to teach me all that stuff. So, from St. Pete, Florida, I was a city boy. So when I came out here the first time and met Barb and Wilson, first of all, I rode with Wilson in a truck. We went down to the Heyman's, is that right? Heyman's, I almost got it right. How about that? Went down to Heyman's. We talked for 10 minutes there. I didn't understand a word he said. No clue. Came home, talked to my wife. She goes, "How'd that go?" I said, "It was great, but I don't know what he said." I just said, "Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir." In the same instance, talking to Barbara, I'm a history major from Davidson College. I thought I was smart. Not a chance. So once she found out I was a history major, then I started getting questions about history. And next thing you know, I'm the football coach that I really am at Davidson College and not the history teacher or history major and history buff that I thought I really was. I will tell you, one thing I saw between the two of them now is you all see it too. It's an odd couple, Wilson and Barbara. I looked at my wife, I said, how did they get together? I don't understand this. But I would say they had one thing not one thing in common, but a couple things in common. First of all, they loved each other. They were always together, even though Wilson didn't always follow his diabetes and things like that, and this thing would beep, 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 and Barbara would go, "Will you please take care of that, Wilson?" And he would go, "Oh, okay." But they love history. They love Curry Tuck. And I've learned a lot about this place over the years. I'm going to end up coming here in a couple of years to live, so I'm still learning more about it. But they're a special group, and Barbara's a special person. There's no doubt about that. As a history teacher, I'm sure if you got to be her student, I can see that just from what she does every day. And I just wanted to say that, so.
I just want you to know, I am so disappointed. I kept thinking about coming here and hearing all these juicy stories. And I know there are juicy stories out there because I have a lot of them. I'm not telling Barbara, I'm going to be very nice, I'm going to be indignant. But I do have to tell you this. Who talked about the Christmas tree? Excuse me. The cutting, no, it wasn't Nicky. Anyway, Sonia. Anyway, he did that at my house too. I brought down a Christmas tree and they told me they wanted a big one. And it was a big one. And we got it up and we were really, really tickled. We got it decorated and everything. So we decided it was time to take it down. So what does Wilson do? He pulls out his chainsaw and starts cutting the tree. So now I know where he learned to cut the tree. It was here. So that was my introduction. Well, not my introduction. That's one of the things Wilson did. I also have to tell you that I can't help but tell this one. My mother and my dad and I have never been to Kentucky. And Barbara came up here and she just loved the place. She just fell in love with it. And we just knew she was going to stay. We weren't sure we were real happy about it because we thought she was going to come here for 2 years, teach, get settled, come back home. That's what everybody thought. That didn't happen. She came up here and she fell in love with the people and she loved teaching. And then she fell in love with Wilson. Oh boy. He and I were like oil and water. But that's okay, we loved each other. But I have to tell that all we heard from Wilson and Barbara was that they had the best labs in the world, that their dogs were the best in the world and the most obedient, and that they did everything perfect. Well, we couldn't wait to get up here because we just had to see these labs. So my dad and my mother and I come into the little house they were staying at, and we were all so excited. Barbara was just all smiles, and their lab was very obedient. He got right up and peed all over my dad. And from that point on, we decided she just had the best trained labs in the world.
Well, I've probably known Wilson about as long as anybody, maybe except for AD. But, is it on?
Yeah, hold it close.
Okay. And a lot of the stories I don't want to tell. So,
Come on.
Wilson took me water skiing. That's how first time I ever water skied. Carried me all the way to the land. Told me if I fell, he wasn't coming back to get me. So I didn't fall. I came back. But I knew when he first started. Barbara came to the county. They started dating. But a lot of the stories that Wilson told, we found out after he passed away, weren't exactly the way it really was. He would come up to the house and about every day he'd come in the shop. He'd say, "What are y'all doing?" I'd say, "Well, we're not doing much. You haven't done anything, so we didn't figure we'd do anything." And but he'd say, "Well, Beth's coming, and she's got a whole list for me to do." And I just got to go hide somewhere. It was Wilson that had the list for Beth when she was coming. Oh, I think he took you up on that first trip down here too, didn't he? Yeah. Yeah, he told me about that too. Anyway, it's a lot of stories. Wilson, we go back a long ways. I got a fire truck in my yard right now as a result of Wilson buying a fire truck for the fire station. Caleb said that got too much sentimental value for it to be sold, so we ended up with it. So anybody want a fire truck? But anyway, it's a lot, we had a lot of good times, and, I miss Wilson a lot.
Anybody else? Good chance.
So, obviously my father's not here tonight, which I wish he was, because he would be blessed to see her being honored. But with my father being gone, I can pick on him, right? So here we go. One, he took my husband, city boy, out of the water to redo a blind. My husband, I love you, does not do well with tools. But yet we put him in the water and decided he was going to rebuild a blind. They worked on this blind for 4 days. They say they worked on the blind for 4 days. Okay. Anyway, so the 4th day comes, they want us to go out and see this blind. How they got it all done, they're so proud of it. Mom and I get in the boat, we ride out there, I look at it, I look at them, and I look at them and I said, what have you been doing for 4 days? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, it's a box and on stilts, that's all it is. And the stilts were already there. I said, there should be a bench and a porta potty and maybe a little mini fridge at this point. They were so mad at me, but I'll tell them myself. So Dad brought the old box up to the house. You know my father, he throws nothing away. Everybody knows that. So my dad brings the old box up to the house, sets it on the ground, and leaves it. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to take it up to the house and put it in the yard. I said, why? We don't need to mow around it. He said, I might use it for something. So I waited. They got back after they finished lunch. They got back out in the boat. Took my husband with them. They all got out in the boat. When they got far enough away from shore, I went and got a gas can and a match and put it on fire. Brett said, you could see my dad's face. He came back and said, what did you do? I said, I wasn't mowing around it. He said, okay. That's one. The story with the tree, I will let you know the Christmas tree. My grandmother's house up in Huntersville has cream carpet. It was a formal dining room. The tree was too big for the room. So before we even put the tree up, my father went outside, got the chainsaw, and cut it in the living room. I thought my grandmother was going to have a heart attack. All she could see was the oil from the gas from the chainsaw potentially going on her cream carpet. And Jennifer is right. When we were done, it's time to take it down. He did restart the chainsaw and took it down in several pieces out the door. My dad always loved little things like that. He enjoyed entertaining people, I think as most people know. Lots of practical jokes, lots of stirring the pot, as I always like to say. Yes, as always. But anyway, I grew up very blessed to have 2 wonderful people who loved history and who love this county. And I'm blessed to be able to come back in a couple of years and live here.
I got to defend myself at this point. And Wilson. Thank you all for coming here tonight. I'm blessed to look at people I have grown to love over the years. Beth is right. Susie Sproul, who Russ mentioned, told me that my life was like the state of North Carolina. It has 3 parts. I was born in the Piedmont. I was blessed in the Piedmont to have parents and aunts and uncles who helped raise me. And then I got, for my education, I went to the mountains of North Carolina. My joke is that I was skinny when I was in the mountains because I was climbing them all the time. That's not really true, but in the mountains
got a degree in history, met some wonderful professors, learned how to research history. And then my father says I rebelled. And the third part of my life was when I came down here to find a place to teach. I had been offered a job in Charlotte, in Mecklenburg County, which pays a much larger supplement than Currituck ever thought about. But I decided I needed to be on my own. So I came down here for 3 years, and then I was going back to Carolina and finish my degree, or my advanced degrees. Well, in those 3 years, I did attempt to look after the cheerleaders. I won't say I really attempted, and I did attempt to teach some of these wonderful people who are in this room. But in those 3 years, I met Wilson. We got married, and Wilson at that time had a job in Richmond, and we found out we were expecting death. We decided that if we're going to raise a child, this is the best place that we could raise a child. So we came back here, where we had friends that had been friends Wilson his whole life. I'm looking at AD and thinking of some of the stories that Wilson talked about when they were growing up. And Morris, always depended on him. So friends of a lifetime. So I came back here, we raised Beth, and I will say the one thing I can say about Currituck is that it allowed me to do the one thing that I love to do, which is study history, especially colonial history. And it allowed me to be able to develop friends who are lifetime friends. And it allowed me to grow and do. But the one thing I'm going to correct, a lot of people have been said very nice things about me. But the one thing that I need to tell you, nothing is done individually. I think Newton was the one who said that you stand on the shoulders of others. Every single thing that Wilson, the fire department, mainly, the Historical Society with me, the books, Whalehead, the Boat Museum, every single one of those projects were not individual projects. Every single one of those were projects that this community did. And that's what it takes to have a successful community, is working together. And so I would like to say personally and publicly, thank you to each one of you all of you have worked with me on a project or with Wilson on something, and you have given your work and your time and your friendship. And I thank you very much for that. Even for the ones of you who just came for the dinner instead of But on that note, I need to say thank you to Josh, to Russ and John for preparing this meal. And I understand there was a committee who planned this together, and I don't even know who's on the committee. So I'm not used to walking into situations where I don't know who did what, but whoever did each individual thing, I would like to say thank you very much to them, and thank you very much for coming.
We have plenty of pork, mashed potatoes, gravy, whatever, if you want to take a plate home or get another plate, eat it here. But there's plenty of it.
Does anybody need to say anything else? I didn't get to use my line from It's a Wonderful Life. Barbara, the richest woman in town. I thought about, the committee has thought about ways to extend her achievements, and we're postulating the idea of a scholarship. that would extend this legacy, both Wilson and Barbara. And what I'm doing now, I'm casting this net wider. If this is a good idea, if this is something that's worthwhile, we need input. We need to figure out how we can do this to extend this legacy.
I think it's an excellent idea. Okay. My sister and I did that in the name of my parents, and we give a scholarship. A child more in need than scholastical, because they get the scholarship to a Currituck senior. And it's an honor each year.
Okay, I love it. Well, this is, I appreciate everybody that's been here, whether you spoke or not. I'm glad you could come. Here's the benediction. You ready? The Lord bless you and keep you and give you peace. Amen.
Yeah.